Welcome back, everyone. As you've heard, the international police manhunt finally descended on the suspected porn star killer today in Germany. Joining us now, the man who's been helping us track every twist and turn in this case since it broke last Tuesday. He is the former editor of the London Observer, the Montreal Star, and the former head of Global News. Ray Hurd joins us now in our Toronto studios. Your reaction, sir?
I don't think I want to smile on camera to start today. But the most amazing thing about this is this alleged body parts killer lived on the internet and in the internet, and he was caught watching himself in an internet cafe on the internet. Now that is a line or a plot that a B-grade Hollywood movie would reject as being absolutely ridiculous. Now, I'm not sure that our viewers know the link between the alleged body parts killer, I call the story Bodygate, and the Hollywood movie that starred Michael Douglas and Sharon Stone. And in that movie, I think it was called Basic Instinct.
It was. The bunny boiling scene comes to mind.
That was his favorite movie. And the alleged killer says that he and his stepmother used to watch this at night. He probably watched it online. In the movie, the murder is committed with, guess what? An ice pick. This unfortunate Chinese person was killed, according to the video, with an ice pick. Similar names were used. The name was Kathy Trammell, and the alleged killer apparently used that name too. And the most incredible, and it's not a coincidence, this is a deliberate thing, was in the movie, the great line is, "You can't stop killing once you've started." That's in the movie, and that is what this character is alleged to have said. So this is probably the first internet murder. There are similar ones, but this thing is completely dominated by his life, his real life, his imaginary life online.
And do you believe that that is the sort of prevailing reason why this case, I mean, gruesome crimes happen every day, but do you believe that that unique aspect of the case is why it has captured such widespread international attention?
Well, since you and I first started talking about this Tuesday a week ago, tomorrow a week ago, I've had an incredible increase in my Twitter, Ray Hurd at Twitter, and to a lesser degree on Facebook. People get a vicarious pleasure, I guess, peeping into these things. But the real reason is it's such a dramatic story online, on the internet, and it changes so fast that people like watching it or observing it on something like Twitter, because that is an exciting process. And in this case, so far, the result, very quickly, has been a good, happy result.
A tragic case, one that has been very dramatic online, but with so far a reasonably good ending. Not only a compelling story journalistically, but I got to tell you, Ray, it occurred to me over the weekend as, you know, somebody trying to option the rights to a movie here at some point.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that Hollywood scriptwriters are going to want to do something about this. Now, they tried to make the Paul Bernardo Carla Homolka movie, which I think they made, but no one really wants to watch the movie. I'm not sure that people don't prefer just quick hits on Twitter rather than going to see a bloodthirsty movie. Maybe they do. Right now, they seem to prefer action heroes to anything else. But I predict that someone will try to make a movie out of this. Some of my acquaintances and yours on Twitter are very critical of the way the media has covered this, because they say that the media is finding him guilty. He has to have due process. In Canada, most people have called him the alleged killer, which is fair. The British tabloid media may have gone a bit overboard. They have referred to cannibalism. Now, I have been unable to watch the video that he is alleged to have posted, because I just couldn't stomach it, frankly.
I've not watched it either, but our producer did, and he confirms that based on what he saw in the alleged video, that there is an act of cannibalism that takes place.
Yes, so that's what, to be cruel about it, or perverse about it, the Fleet Street tabloids, and I did not work on a tabloid on Fleet Street, I worked on a quality paper called The Observer. That's what they like. The cannibal angle appeals to them. Now, you may not know that there are 3 cannibal cases in the headlines in the United States today. There's the Florida one, there's one in Maryland, and there's a woman in Texas. So there are 3 major cases involving cannibalism in the American tabloid media and on the Twitterverse today. So for reasons I don't understand, we live in pretty gruesome, ghostly times.
What sort of intensity do you expect pre-trial and trial hearings to experience?
Oh, it'll be huge. You know, because of the international angle, and by the way, China has warned Chinese citizens to be careful about Canada.
Yes, I saw that over the weekend.
I think this will continue to be a major Canadian story, but an international story too, because mainly because of the internet angle. He boasted about killing kittens. I was wrong. I told you that I doubted he would be taken alive. Do you know what he said when he was arrested in the internet cafe today?
You got me.
You got me. Now, by saying that in a court of law, that's pretty damaging.
Well,
what
if
he
it's admissible.
said.
If it's admissible.
Well, that may be, because I think they can find a way of asking the internet cafe manager what he said. If there were witnesses who heard him say, "You got me," it means he knows he was wanted. Now, he might claim he was wanted for the wrong reasons, but this case has a lot of angles to it. The Canadian media has followed it responsibly, and I think, to get back to a point that I raised with you last week, some self-appointed journalistic experts, usually journalism professors, have been very critical of the way the media has covered the story. They think the media has overhyped it, blah, blah. This story basically is about the internet, the power of the internet, the dangers of the internet.
And the frontiers that we've not yet confronted.
And how people can lure innocent victims on the internet, how people can boast and brag about despicable acts on the internet. So I think this is a legitimate, major news story, and I can't understand why the self-appointed journalism experts think that there's something wrong in covering it.
And your sense as well of the interest in the story among the Canadian public, because every news organization has covered it differently.
Yes.
This one has been extremely aggressive in covering it, some other news organizations less so.
Well, I
how
think
interested
some
are
news
Canadians?
got onto it early. I think CTV has been good, Cable 24, which is the Toronto local news channel. As usual, the slowest unto the breach has been the state broadcaster, because the state broadcaster has good journalists, but they have so many layers of management that the real journalists don't get the opportunity to show how good they are, because all these bean counters who are overpaid are in these pyramids and layers above them.
Look, Ray, I wouldn't know anything about that as a former
No, you
employee
wouldn't
of the
know
state
anything about the
broadcaster.
CBC, and nor would you say anything for fear of being sued.
Do you have anything else you would like to add, my friend?
No, I think stay tuned. And the other big story today, which you've dealt with, was the arrest of someone in the Eaton Centre tragedy. That's what it was. And I think that the media has been very slow so far on that one, because it's been conceded this was gang related. Gangs have been moving around the city, changing their neighborhoods. And what we saw, and there's some published accounts of this, notably in the Globe and Mail, which deserves credit, to say this was a sort of gang turf war, and the two sides allegedly decided to meet downtown on a Saturday evening in probably the most crowded place in Toronto to try to make peace, and instead they made war, and one person so far has died, and it's an absolute tragedy which tells the world that even Toronto, which is still relatively safe. Now, I'm not sure if you saw the figures, but I'll give you one figure. 50 people were killed by guns in Toronto last year, roughly 50. So far in Chicago, in the first few months of this year, 114 people have been shot. So everything is relative. People have reason to be disturbed about Toronto. The challenge for Toronto is to keep it safe and to make this the exception that tests the rule.
We appreciate, as always, your insights,
Thank
Ray.
you.
Ray Hurd, he is the former head of Global News, joining us live here on Canada Live.